smaller units and accomplish the whole. Making visual associations to aid retentions. Most students are visual learners, so this type of strategy, cognitive strategy, is very important for you to use in the classroom. Creating graphic organizers, maps, charts, diagrams, timelines, and flowcharts to organize, analyze, and better understand concepts or information. Luckily for us, because learning strategies are so important to learning overall, more and more textbooks have already come up with these charts, organizers, as you saw in the examples that I gave you for the activities, include charts and maps and organizers, diagrams, and such. Making categories and classifications. The best way to do this is when students brainstorm and you get the information, you receive the information, put it in the blackboard under categories or under classifications. Then the students, by you modeling it, will immediately start getting which belong to which. Some examples of organizing and planning for learning. These belong to the metacognitive one. Using homework notebook to write down assignments. Keeping a calendar organizer to write down long-term assignments. Setting deadlines for completion of segments and tasks. These are very, very difficult self-discipline type of activities for our students. They usually don't do this kind of thing, and if you could make a habit of ending the class by having them do this, it would help them. Planning how to study for a test is another one that I included in this and that I had forgotten to mention. Some examples of self-monitoring and self-evaluating learning. This also belonging to the metacognitive strategies. Recognizing your own knowledge gaps and weaknesses. Some students are already doing this, especially in the high school area. Discovering strategies that work best for you and those that don't. It's just as important for you to realize what doesn't work for you than to realize what does. Checking on yourself by responding to, how am I doing? And some examples of the social strategies. Working in class in pairs or small groups to clarify content, solve problems, and complete projects. Doing homework or studying for a test with a friend, which is usually the case. Watching selected TV programs, movies, or surfing the net. And here's another example of a learning strategy. This one is in brainstorming, which we do quite often. It says, think about the strategies you use for each of the skill areas and write down your ideas. Share your ideas with a partner. Now, this strategy is metacognitive because you are thinking about what works for you, as well as cognitive because you are brainstorming, okay? In reading, you could ask, what do you do to help yourself read in English? You give the strategy description, you say what is this, why the strategy is useful, and when it is useful. The same thing for reading, the same thing for listening, the same thing for writing, the same thing for speaking. Now down below, I've put down some strategies that the students can choose from to fill in the charts, like set goals, predict, activate background knowledge, deduce, induce, group, classify, infer. So for example, what do you do to help yourself read in English? Infer might be one that really helps a student, whereas another one says taking notes, where another student says, okay, associate what I learned with what I already know, or activating background knowledge, whatever. But all the strategies are down below for the students to pick and choose what's best for that student. Because remember, we all have different learning styles, and so different learning strategies work best for some than for others. Okay, teaching learning strategies is very simple. Well, I've kind of mentioned a little bit in the charts that I've shown you. But basically, it boils down to 4 steps, which is in chart 1. Okay? Chart 1 tells you, introduce strategy to your students and label it as a new strategy. It might be a good idea In the bibliography that I include at the end, I mention a couple of books on learning strategies, which happens to be my favorite subject, as you can tell, in teaching and learning. O'Malley is a well-known author in this. A lot of her books are mentioned in the bibliography. If you get one of her books or have it as in your resource center, you will be able to give the students a list of all the strategies that can be found and used. So when you introduce strategy to your students and label it as a new strategy, if they have this list, they will be more readily able to identify this strategy. Identify it by name and explain how it is used, demonstrate how to use it, give students time and opportunity for practice using it. I think that giving students time and opportunity for practice and using it is more important than the language skill in it of itself, because you are giving that student a lifelong skill that he or she can apply not only to English later on, but to any other area in his life. Okay, another way to teach learning strategy would be to model. Modeling is an effective way to train your students as well. For example, the teacher could say something like, if I had to learn this, I would probably use giving a detailed step-by-step description of the process you would use. This, in effect, is modeling the how-to of learning. You could do this in Spanish with your middle school students, just so they learn the strategy, which is the key here, and then have them apply it in English. Another approach is to ask students how they are learning by asking them guided questions and naming the strategy the students applied. Look at chart 2. This is sort of a coaching approach. Your student correctly infers information from the text that he has been reading. You ask, where did you find the information that helped you with that answer? And he tells you. When he tells you, you could say, oh, so you inferred. Okay? Then your student solves a complex problem. You could ask, how did you arrive at that answer? Well, when I was a little kid, I used to, so you used your background knowledge to solve that answer. Or your student presents an informed opinion on a topic. You ask, what information led you to this opinion? You could say, when I was watching the documentary, then you could say, oh, so your social skills in watching this TV show helped you with that. Or your student gets a good grade on a test. You ask, how exactly did you study for this test? And you could say, and the student says, well, I classified all the foods that were drinks here, and I organized all the foods that were solids and meats over here. Oh, so you categorized. Very good. So this is a really natural way for you to teach learning strategies in the classroom. Okay. Your activities for learning strategies will include identifying the type of learning strategy for each of the following 5 figures and state why. This is 1. Figure 2 is a graph. So you will have to identify the learning strategy used for that figure 2. You will have to identify the learning strategy for figure 3, which is text, okay? Figure 4 is a page from the teacher book for Hey There, which has lots of activities. All of them include a variety of learning strategies. And figure 5 is really easy. I'm sure you'll see that. The last part of our presentation has to do with textbook strategies. Okay, just as we've done teaching and learning, instructional strategies, learning strategies, we're now going to go on to textbook strategies. And I think this is mostly applicable to the high school students. Many students are unaware of the existence of textbook aids as resource to them and to help them understand with the information in the text. Using textbook aids is an important learning strategy and should be taught explicitly whenever a new text is introduced in the class. The teacher can show the students how to use these aids by presenting them or to try a